When Better Call Saul premiered in 2015, it came hot off the heels of Breaking Bad, one of the world's best television series. The concept seemed singular at first. Tell a story answering the question, what problem does becoming Saul Goodman solve? The result was a series that went on to surpass its predecessor in the eyes of both critics and audiences alike. Whereas Breaking Bad told the story of one man on a path of absolute destruction, Better Call Saul told the story of multiple people making what they thought were good choices, only to watch them sink beyond the point of no return. Therein lies the pure irony of Better Call Saul's finale, when we recognize the writers unceremoniously made the same mistake. To first answer the question, what problem does becoming Saul Goodman solve, we have to look at two sides of the same coin. The only thing Jimmy McGill ever wanted in life was approval from the people who meant the most to him, the first of which being his older brother Chuck. But Jimmy was so adamant on earning his approval that he inadvertently drove a wedge between them. What's more, his actions caused Chuck to take his own life, and instead of dealing with that realization head on, Jimmy adopted the Saul Goodman persona to hide behind, partly due to their last interaction.
If you're not going to change your behavior, and you won't, why not just skip the whole exercise? In the end, you're going to hurt everyone around you. You can't help it. So stop apologizing and accept it. Embrace it. Frankly, I'd have more respect for you if you did.
On the other side of the coin, we have Kim Wexler, Jimmy's love interest, who was arguably the only person that ever kept him fully grounded. After Chuck's death, Jimmy started to bring out the worst qualities in Kim, undoubtedly due to his repressed feelings of guilt. Eventually, things escalated to such extremes that Howard got caught in the crossfire. This served as a wake-up call for Kim, and gave us another scene reminiscent of Chuck's.
I have had the time of my life with you. But we are bad for everyone around us. Other people suffer because of us. Apart, we're okay, but together, we're poison.
No, just tell me what I need to do to change, okay? Just tell me what it is and I'll do it.
Once Kim called it quits, Jimmy was left with nobody that he cared about, which gave him free rein to fully commit to the Saul act. Everything leading up to this point was masterful storytelling, but what we got in the finale was a lot of fan service. Sure, the writers alluded to Jimmy having regrets, but they did it with callbacks that lessened the impact. They cemented that Jimmy had reached the end of the line, where he had no options left other than come clean, but their execution for how he did that fell flat. Chuck was completely right when he said Jimmy didn't respect the law, as he constantly looked for ways to manipulate it to benefit himself. Still, entering court as Saul Goodman for his last chicanery, only to commit self-sabotage, was nothing short of character assassination. More than that, after years of treating the courtroom like a stage, Saul Goodman's final act needed to be negotiating his sentence down to just 7 years. In turn, for the courtroom scene to have been effective, Jimmy needed to confess why he chose to become Saul Goodman to begin with. Quite literally the entire premise of the series. Alas, the writers went the fan service route, and we got the Walter White couldn't have done it without me confession, which felt like a blatant retread of Walt's I did it for me speech. Frankly, becoming Saul Goodman is what set Jimmy on a collision course with Walter White, but having him confess to events we never saw transpire in this series felt lackluster. Had Jimmy gone into court with the intention of repeating his victim sob story, only to realize in that moment he was never really the victim, but always the abuser, that would have made for far more compelling character development. Being forthright about Howard, as well as Lalo, would have led to a natural way for him to finally admit his regret and guilt for what happened with his brother. Without Chuck's approval, Jimmy went on to make worse choices, which cost him Kim's approval, and in turn, he lost himself along the way. This confession would have more than earned him Kim's approval back, and beyond that, it would have demonstrated that he was capable of changing, ultimately proving Chuck wrong. Jimmy's life post-Breaking Bad lacked any color precisely because there was nothing left in his life he enjoyed. But after serving a 7-year sentence, it's not far-fetched to imagine he could have emerged from prison a new man, reconciling with Kim and restoring color in his life. Instead, his fate was to live out the rest of his days in prison, which hardly made for a satisfying ending. Don't get me wrong, this series was a phenomenal journey, and one that every Breaking Bad fan should experience, but the finale ended without that closure we got in Breaking Bad, which is why the series will always be considered world's second best.
Just keeping it real. Come on, second is still very, very good.
All right.